Assalamu alaikum, program Perspectives, and I'm your host Ghulam Nabi Morai. Viewers, we discuss any subject or a topic in depth from various perspectives. As usual, our analyst, intellectual, writer, Syed Mohibullah Shah Sahab with us. Shah Sahab, Assalamu alaikum. Shah Sahab, today's topic is the age of enlightenment. Now, my first question is, what is meant by the age of enlightenment and what are its characteristics?
Well, yes, Morai sahab, this is a very important subject that you raised, and it's been talked about a lot all over the world. Unfortunately, we do not talk much about it in Pakistan because we also are suffering because we are not giving importance to this issue, what it is, as you said. Now, what is enlightenment? And we'll come to the age of enlightenment. Enlightenment is a name given to a set of values or guiding principles of a civilized society. Full stop. How should a civilized society conduct itself? Now, the core value, the main value of this enlightenment, the philosophy of enlightenment, the core value is the importance of human being. That the human being, by virtue of being human, is entitled to certain rights which must be recognized and respected. He is different from animal. He is different from other, say the trees and others. So, the central value of enlightenment, as I said earlier, these are the guiding principles of a civilized society. And the core value is the importance of human being. Every individual is important. Every human life is important. That is the core value. Now, how can that individual or the human being, if we are to give value to it, if that individual has certain inalienable, by virtue of being human being and being different from animals and other things, he has certain rights, he has certain potential to grow. Okay. Now, if we recognize that the human beings have a great potential inborn, the God Almighty has given every human being this potential to rise, to grow, to do big things. Now, how can that human being do big things? So this is the second point of it. First point is that it talks about the meaning and the features of a civilized society, and that this core value of a civilized society is respect for human being by virtue of being human being. Because human being, God Almighty has given great potential inborn, potential in every human being to rise, to achieve great things. Now, how can a civilized society enable human beings to achieve great things? This is what the philosophy or movement of enlightenment, how to enable human beings to achieve the greatness which the God Almighty, the nature has given in him, inalienable, by virtue of being a human being, being different from animals and others. And you said that it is based on two things: enabling human being to achieve great potential and become a society. To become an enlightened society must respect and abide by two values so that human beings can attain the great potential which the Almighty has given them. Now, what are those two values? One, respect for knowledge and respect for human rights. Two things. Now, what is knowledge? Knowledge is not education. Education is a means of acquiring knowledge, but education by itself is not knowledge. And in fact, if you look at countries, say, let us say Pakistan, and most of the government educational institutions, schools, colleges, universities, they impart education which does not provide knowledge. They give education, but this is an education without knowledge. So we have to understand what knowledge is. How is knowledge different from education? And then we will talk about the second part, which is the human rights and the importance. So these two things, human beings can attain their potential which God Almighty has given them if two principles are recognized and respected in a society, then it becomes an enlightened society. First, we said, is knowledge. Now, what is knowledge? Knowledge has 6 characteristics. And we can distinguish something is not knowledge. If we know what knowledge is, then we will say, okay, this education, that's a waste of time, because it is not giving knowledge. It is wasting the lives, years of students, whether in schools or colleges or universities, and whatever is the hard-earned money of their parents, it is wasted. It is they are going through motion, they are going through a process which does not give knowledge to them. Now, what is knowledge? So knowledge has, as I said, 6 characteristics. 1, knowledge is rational. Knowledge is product of reason. Do these schools or colleges, do they cultivate that rational ability, reasoning ability in students? If they don't, then it's a waste of time. They are not giving knowledge. Second, knowledge is incremental. Knowledge is not fixed. So it can be added, and as you keep doing, there is no end, there is no limit to the knowledge, and it can be added. Third, this knowledge is something, let us say, it creates an awareness and understanding of people and the events around us, what is happening and why it is happening. So as we said, it is rational, it cultivates reason. And 2, it is incremental, it is not fixed, it is not a dogma, it's not given, it is acquired. Knowledge is acquired. Knowledge is not given. Knowledge is not fixed. Knowledge is different from dogma. And then it cultivates awareness and understanding of human beings, of people and events. That is the 4th one. 5th one, knowledge also becomes a source of new wealth and power. That's another one. And another last sixth quality of knowledge is that it is a problem solver. If you have knowledge, you are able to solve your problems. Now this is important, we will say, go back and enumerate these so that our viewers understand this clearly. There are six qualities or six features of knowledge. One, it is rational, it is based on reason, not on dogma. Second, it is incremental. It keeps expanding. There is no fixed knowledge that beyond this you cannot learn. No, there's nothing fixed. It is expanding, it is increasing. Third, that it is acquired, research-based. It is not given, it's acquired. Fourth, that it creates awareness and understanding about people and events in which we live. That understanding and awareness. Fifth, that knowledge is the source of new wealth and power, creating new wealth and new power. And sixth, that knowledge, people who have knowledge, they are problem solvers. They don't look to others, but that knowledge gives them the ability and a skill to be problem solvers. If you see six characteristics, then you know that that person has knowledge.
Let's take a break. Welcome back. Shah Sahab, you explained two things, fundamentals of enlightenment. One is respect for knowledge, you explained, and how about respect for human beings?
Yes, now, the second pillar, foundation, was respect for human rights. Now, what we mean by human rights is a very vast subject, but we will talk about the main features of it. When we say that human beings, by virtue of being human beings, have been given by God Almighty certain inherent qualities and the potential to rise, to do great things. So one, they need this knowledge, not just education, but knowledge. And second, an environment where human rights are respected. Now, what should be the features of that environment? One would be that there should be equality of all human beings. Because God makes no distinction between human beings, whatever the color, whatever the race. So one is equality. The other is that there should be no discrimination on either basis of color or basis of gender or basis of religion or any other basis. No discrimination should be there. 3, that human beings, in order to achieve their potential, they must have opportunity. Opportunity, okay, supposing they have acquired the knowledge, and I will go into the details for it. But the third is that they should have opportunities. So they should be equal opportunities. Not that this man has more opportunities because he's son of so-and-so, and this man has no opportunities because he's son of a poor man, or he comes from a different caste or a different color. No, equal opportunities. Now, in order that you work, supposing you have knowledge and you also have opportunity. Supposing you get opportunity and you create something as we were talking earlier, one of the features of knowledge is that knowledge is the source of new wealth and power. Now, supposing you have knowledge, supposing you get opportunity, and you create new source of wealth, a new source of power. Supposing somebody who is more powerful, some high and mighty, comes and takes away, snatches away the reward or the benefit of that. You have worked, you have applied your knowledge, you have used the opportunity, but you are not getting the reward. So there must be rule of law in order that what you work, your knowledge, if you produce something, new value, new invention, new discovery, new source of creating wealth, then it should not be taken away, snatched by somebody who is big and powerful. So there should be rule of law in the society. And because human beings have rights because of being human, no government gives you the rights. These are by virtue of being these human rights are not dependent on the charity from government. Humans have these rights by virtue of being human beings. So therefore there should be limit to authority of government, that it cannot take away your rights. Okay. So now we say some of the features. What should be ingredients of this human right in a civilized society? One, it should have equality of all. It should have non-discrimination, whether no discrimination on the basis of color, creed, gender, religion, anyone. Three, it should provide equal opportunities to all. Fourth, that the rewards and benefits of the knowledge and opportunity should be protected by rule of law. And fifth, that because the rights are inalienable by virtue of being human being, these are not gifts or a charity from government. So the government cannot take away the rights. And therefore, there should be limits on the power of government so that the rights are protected. Okay? So these are the 5 ingredients essential ingredients of a civilized society which respects human rights. If it doesn't have these 5, which means it is not respecting the human rights. Now, very essential, very important, we'll come to it how human rights are not new to the modern world. Okay, we know that the United Nations has the Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. But if we look up history, human rights have been talked about and implemented even before the birth of Christ. History records a very important historical event. There was a big Persian emperor, Cyrus the Great, about 500 years before the birth of Christ. Now he was a big emperor, and Persian Empire was spread over many other areas, including what is now Iraq, for instance, or Mesopotamia in those days. When Emperor Cyrus the Great conquered parts of Iraq, at that time it was known as Babylon. When it conquered Babylon, to the conquered people, he did not make them slaves. He did not snatch away their property. He announced the human rights to them. He said, you are all equal. You are free to observe whatever religion you have. Equality, non-discrimination, freedom to have whatever belief you have. And you have full opportunity to do your best. 500 years ago, before Christ, human rights or record were announced by Cyrus the Great. Now, how do we know this? This is why he's called a great man. What they did was, these principles, these guidance, these were written on cylinders, like a cylinder, and they were inscribed on those cylinders. And those cylinders were put in various places, in various towns. But for instance, here in Karachi, in Hyderabad, in Sangad, in Chekabad, so people living in those towns can see that, okay, in this Chauraha, in this roundabout, there is this cylinder, and they can read that, okay, I have these rights. So the knowledge was spread out. That's the greatness of the man, okay? Now, the unfortunate thing is that these human rights, which were announced and implemented 500 years before Christ, in today's world, there are many countries which do not respect and do not abide.
Pakistan is one of them.
See, you buy human rights. Now, we were talking about why these are important. Why these are, for instance, you see, again, we come to that there were two pillars, two foundations. One was respect for knowledge and respect for human rights. Now, supposing there are no human rights in a society, then the knowledge becomes useless.
100%.
Even though you have acquired this knowledge, you have acquired excellent, all kinds, all the features, all the qualities of the knowledge that we taught. You have acquired the knowledge which has all the 6 qualities. But if you don't get opportunities to apply that knowledge, what will it do? By itself, knowledge cannot do anything. It is the person who has this knowledge, if that person has opportunity to apply that knowledge, and when he applies, he should have this assurance that the benefits of applying this knowledge will not be snatched away from me, that there's a protection of rule of law. Then the person will go, then from it becomes incremental. The new knowledge will come today, tomorrow more, another day more. There is no end to increasing the knowledge and improving the well-being of human beings. This is why we say that the Enlightenment is providing these guiding principles of a civilized society. If you do these, then power and prosperity and the dignity of human rights is all available and prevalent in that society.
Viewers, let's take a break. Welcome back. Shah Sahab, you explained very candidly the 2 fundamentals of the Enlightenment. Now, coming to the Muslim world, do you think that these fundamentals are being followed in Muslim world? Or at any point of time, you found these fundamentals of enlightenment in Muslim world also?
Very important, Morai sahab. The fact that the Muslim world is generally weak, vulnerable and backward, it shows that Muslim world is not an enlightened society. It does not have these features, because if it would, then the potential of human beings to achieve greatness in Muslim world will be very high. and they will not be in this position. But there was a time, if we go back into history, there was a time when the Muslim society had all these features, or most of these features, and that period of time was called the Golden Age of Islam for about 500 to 600 years. It observed the main features of the enlightened society. The main feature, as we talked earlier also, the fundamental fact is that enlightenment is driven by knowledge. And the Muslim world and in the golden age of Islam, the library in Baghdad, which was called Baitul Hikmat, or the House of Wisdom, it was considered to be the largest library in the world at that time. And it had scholars, people from every part of the world, not just Muslims, but they were European Christians, they were Greeks, they were Romans, they were Hindus, they were Chinese, they were Persians, they were Arabs, there were all kinds of people who could contribute knowledge. They were invited by the Khalifa, the emperor, and the government of the day. It was enlightened government. It welcomed knowledge from every source. So, the defining factor, and as we talked also, the first point is knowledge, respect for knowledge. It is from here, the other things will follow. It is only to protect the rewards of knowledge, as we say, the knowledge is a source of new wealth and power. And to protect the reward of the knowledge, you bring the human rights. Otherwise, the knowledge is based. The fundamental is the knowledge, respect. And they produce the knowledge in every subject. In astronomy, in medicines, in philosophy, in reason, in technologies, and welcome the contributions to advancement, to increase the knowledge from everybody. So all the characteristics, that the knowledge is rational and it is incremental and it is acquired. The Chinese came, they were non-Muslims. The Hindus came, they were non-Muslims. The Greeks and the Romans came, they were non-Muslims. So no non-discrimination, equality to contribute to advancement of knowledge. So, but that age of enlightenment and the golden age, it ended when Halaku destroyed Baghdad in 1258 and sacked and burned, along with the city of Baghdad, it burned the biggest library, largest collection of books. Now it produced two results. There were some people, maybe sensible, maybe wise, maybe cautious, when they were able to take books away from library and before its burning, and they managed to leave Baghdad. And they carried this knowledge, and the history record, it is from here. Part of this knowledge which was saved and taken away by some of these scholars, mostly Christian, European scholars, they took away this knowledge and tried to further develop it. And that produced in 100 years' time, the new age of enlightenment in Europe. Its starting point was in Italy and called Renaissance. The Renaissance literally means the rebirth of knowledge. There was the knowledge before, it was burnt, we are recreating. A new birth of knowledge is coming. So the age of enlightenment was ending in the Muslim world at the end of the Golden Age, and the age of enlightenment was now starting in Europe. Now, again, the critical factor, what distinguishes, is not so much the wealth and power, but knowledge, because knowledge is source of wealth and power. If you remember, after the end of this Khilafat, Abbasid Khilafat, it ended in 1258, there were Muslim empires afterwards also, big empires. There was Ottoman Empire, Osmania Khilafat, and there was Mughal Emperor here. The Ottoman Empire lasted 500 to 600 years. The Mughal Empire lasted here for more than 400 years. But nobody calls them the Age of Enlightenment. Nobody calls them the Golden Age, even though Muslims were rulers for 500, 600 years from Istanbul and another 400 years from here, from India, in India. But nobody says that. Why? Because they were powerful, they were also rich, but there was zero knowledge. There was no creation of knowledge.
Even today, even today, major share of the natural resources falls in the Muslim world.
Yes, but it's lack of knowledge.
No,
You bring Gora, you bring a white man, please dig this and find oil,
For me,
find gas for us. Okay, so knowledge is the driving force of enlightenment and source of power and source of new wealth. Therefore, this knowledge went away now, it was taken away from those burning libraries, whatever could be saved, and on that they built the new source of knowledge in Europe, and the European Renaissance, followed by European Enlightenment started, which made Europe powerful and prosperous. But in Muslim world, it was the end of new knowledge. And therefore, even though there were empires, Ottoman Empire and the Mughal Empire, and maybe in Egypt also, the point is, they are not recognized by even Muslims as golden ages. Because in Baghdad, the Abbasid Caliphate also lasted 500 years. It started from 18th century and ended in 13th. The Osmani Khilafat also lasted 500 years. The Mughal Empire, but nobody calls them. Why? Because the critical factor of enlightenment, knowledge, was absent. No new knowledge was created. If you see the history, you would find nobody mentions, while they talk about the great achievements, and there were conquest of various countries. In Europe, the Ottoman Empire expanded into some of the European countries, all the way up to Vienna, and in the Middle East, all the way up to Egypt. And the Mughal Empire also started from here, let us say from what is Pakistan today, all the way to Chennai and Bengal. But nobody talks about that they created any new libraries, created any new knowledge, or invited scholars, people from everywhere, to come and produce new knowledge. Therefore, they are not considered within the age of enlightenment. So for Muslims, the age of enlightenment ended in 13th century. It has been so many centuries. The Muslims, unless they respect, so in conclusion, what we can say, what we learned from history and our discussion is that knowledge is critical factor for enlightenment, and protection and respect for human rights is critical. These two things. Muslim societies, when they respected this, they were called the Golden Age. When they did not respect, even though they were empires, nobody associates the enlightenment to them. And why is enlightenment essential? Because through knowledge and protection of human rights, it empowers people. It enables them, it empowers people to achieve the great potential that God Almighty has put in every human being. To achieve that potential that God Almighty has put in every human being, there should be respect for knowledge and for human rights. Now, then they become powerful, and therefore, two lessons. One, no country can become powerful if its people are not powerful. If the people are disempowered, a country cannot become powerful. And if the people are not enlightened, that country cannot become prosperous and powerful. So the lesson to the Muslim world in Pakistan would be respect knowledge and respect human rights of citizens. Only then you can rise and achieve the greatness.
Viewers, you can watch this program on Thursday after 7 p.m. news, same day 12 midnight, next day 2 p.m. Thank you.